This video is brought to you by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes made for creatives like you and I. They offer classes on topics including illustration, design, photography, video, freelancing, and more, all for less than $10 a month on an annual subscription. So Skillshare is specifically made for learning, so there are no ads, so that you can focus on whatever it is you are currently interested in. And they're always coming up with new classes, so I promise you there's always something new to discover. A class that I'm really excited about is Learn to Storyboard, the first steps of visual storytelling by Leo M. Now Leo is a really talented story artist. Now in this class, he not only goes through the basics of storyboarding, but also shot selection and storytelling in general. So even if you're not interested in being a storyboard artist, I think it's very helpful for anyone who wants to become a better storyteller with their art. So the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description below will get a free trial to Skillshare's premium membership. Explore new curiosities and deepen existing passions with Skillshare.
Okay, it's been a long time coming. I finally finished this sketchbook, sketchbook number 5, so I think it's time for an official tour. Alright, so first thing you'll notice is that this sketchbook is really old. It's 4 years old in fact. So if you can see here, first painting I started was back in June of 2017. So it has been almost 4 years. And I'll tell you why it took me so long to finish this sketchbook. So initially the idea for getting this sketchbook was to use it as a gouache sketchbook. So I wanted to learn how to do a traditional painting here and use it exclusively for traditional painting. So there wasn't going to be any ink sketches or drawings, and I was just purely using it for studies and gouache sketches. So that's kind of the reason for me picking this size. So usually, you see my sketchbooks, they're like A5. So it's only about like half of this. I chose this size because it was like a nice long landscape size, and I could paint really wide shots in this book. That was the initial idea, at least, which is why I picked up a book. So you can see here, these are paintings from my travels. So I painted these while I was in Taiwan. So this is like 2018. So you can see that not much progress was made between 2017 and 2018. So it took me like a year to get up to this point. And then this was when I was in Italy, which was like, I think a year ago or 2 years. I don't know, time has been really weird since the pandemic. Oh yeah, back to the sketchbook. I think this sketchbook is something like a B4 or B5. I don't know, it's one of those like weird non-conventional dimensions. It's not an A4 or like a leather type of dimension, so I don't actually know what it is. I think it's a B, or it could be even a D size sketchbook, but I don't know. I lost the labels and the specs a long time ago. So I started using this for little gouache sketches, and then I started drawing in it for. You've seen some of these sketches on the YouTube channel in the previous videos. So I used it a lot for the channel because it's a nice size. It's big enough that it looks good on camera, and I can draw like a bit more like intricate pieces as opposed to the small sketchbook, in which case like I sort of have to just draw kind of small and simple. So this sketchbook is really well suited for doing stuff on video. Some Inktober sketches here. So I kind of started drawing on one side only because I realized that the gouache sort of rubs off on the next page. So you can see here, for instance, this black paint here is sort of rubbed off on the opposing page, and that's the case with a lot of them too. So I started like just drawing on one side just to preserve it. I know it's an ink sketch, but like it just became a habit of doing it in the sketchbook. Some anatomy studies, pose studies for climbing. Another travel one I did, I think it was in Indonesia. This is not actually a painting of Indonesia, I just painted it while I was in Indonesia. This is the view out of my hotel. more Inktober stuff. So I started, I abandoned that idea of like using it for gouache only because it was just too much pressure to just do like a gouache painting in here, because I felt like it had to be nice. And I found myself just doing gouache sketches on other smaller sketchbooks because it just felt a little bit, there's just a lot less pressure, and I'm just kind of free to mess up, because if I mess up on this like big nice sketchbook, then it's gonna feel real bad. So I just abandoned that idea entirely and just drew in it like any other regular sketchbook with the intent on like filling it up. However, I didn't make that much progress in filling this sketchbook up because of the nature of its size. Inherently, it's just really hard for me to sketch on big sketchbooks because first of all, it's a lot of paper and it's a lot of stuff to fill up, and I am not someone who sketches very big. My drawings tend to be really, really small, at best A4 size, so like I don't like sketching really big, and just having like a really big page is sort of intimidating. Another thing is that it's just because of its size, I can't really bring it everywhere I go with me. It's not very portable, so I don't tend to bring out the sketchbook. And when I'm at home, I don't really like sketch on big sketchbooks. I rather just like sketch digitally on Photoshop or something like that, rather than bring it out and then clear space on my table to draw. It's just the barrier to entry to drawing in the sketchbook is a lot higher than something smaller that just sits on my table perpetually. Whereas this, I have to just go to my bookshelf to get it, and it's just a lot of hassle. So I guess the lesson here is that if you want to make it, if you want to sketch a lot, make it really easy on yourself. Lower the barrier to entry, make it super easy for you to just pick up a pen and start drawing. Don't, put lots of like obstacles in between you and the sketchbook. So you can see here, I started drawing above these paintings because I did this for the aquarium painting video, and some sketches I wasn't quite happy with, so I just drew over them just to try and save the page and make the most use of it, I guess. And just honestly, this sketchbook, I only got this far because I had to make videos for the channel. Otherwise I would still be drawing in those little sketchbooks. But this book is actually great. It's a Fabriano sketchbook, I believe. Yep. It's got really nice paper, so even if you look at like this painting here, I've loaded it up completely with like a paint, and it didn't buckle that much, and it doesn't really bleed. It's really thick. It holds paint really well. So if you like to paint on your sketchbooks, then I think this book is actually really great. Fabriano's line of sketchbooks, I guess. And whatever this is, it was 4 years ago. I don't remember which specific book this is, but I'm sure you can find something of a similar nature. However, it doesn't do well with ink. So this sketchbook is really, really textured, or not textured, but for some reason, it sucks the ink out of a pen really, really hard. So you're gonna get a lot of fuzzy lines if you're gonna use like something like a dip pen or a fountain pen to use like heavy inks or really watery inks. It tends to do that. It tends to do that even with ballpoint pen. So this, for instance, was done on a micron felt tip, like those micron liners, the fine liners. So it's a felt tip pen, and if you hold it in for too long, it sort of sucks the ink out of the pen, and you get this like fuzzy effect. If you move fast enough, you can get relatively clean lines, but if you're going slow and with the intent of making thick, very deliberate lines, then you're gonna get something like this, where it sort of bleeds out, and the edges are a little bit fuzzy. It's not really a big deal, but it's not the best for ink. However, if you just want to draw and paint with like pencils and just like gouache paint, I think this book is more than good enough. Maybe you could even find a smaller version of this book that is a little bit more portable, but that's up to you, I guess. Yeah, so I just started drawing these. I drew these crabs actually after going to the aquarium because I really, really like crabs. I think they're really, really cool. Also, really good reference for mechs, coincidentally. So if you're gonna draw like a spider mech or some sort of mech with like 4 legs, like a tank, use this as a reference. It's really great. You get to learn how all these segments are connected. what sort of joints they use, the size of these things, the length. Great mech reference, by the way, crustaceans in general. Here's a manta ray I painted for the aquarium video. Yeah, so I was really starting to get really loose and being more comfortable with this sketchbook. I made the deliberate choice to just leave this book on my table, so it's always there. Like whenever I want to draw, that's the first sketchbook I have. So yeah, I had to live with this on my desk for like a good couple of months, because it was just like, this had to be the first book I had access to, because if not, I was never going to ever use it deliberately or on my own volition. And yeah, it was a bit big and it took up a lot of space on my desk, but it had to be done. So yeah, I started drawing these like little doodles. Basically, you know, whenever I was bored, I just took it out and I just drew, and it started becoming like a real proper scribble sketchbook for me, as opposed to like, you know, oh, we gotta paint something nice here, we gotta paint something nice, and then never use it. I would much rather just have it around, draw ugly little drawings, cute little stupid little drawings, and actually make, you know, good use out of it. You know, here's a fish with a human face. I much rather that than not making the best use out of it and not, you know, using it at all. So here are little studies that I did for like some sort of African architecture. So yeah, these are like mud houses that I took, you know, the design of and started using it in different ways. This is design studies. Yeah, so this is the design, well, not design, but like this painting study for the Ghibli video. So I started using, you know, testing out how Studio Ghibli painters paint their clouds, what sort of colors they use, the shapes, the techniques. Same here with the foliage. So I started testing out different colors, the types of contrast and hue saturation and warmth, temperature shifts that they use in painting the trees and foliage in general, and also, you know, different brush shapes and lots of notes accompanying that, just to prep myself for this painting, which I think is kind of nice, right? I'm proud of it actually. So I'm trying to do something like a more Ghibli style background type painting. Of course, I'm very limited by my skills with the medium, so I'm not very good in gouache. I'm not the best at traditional painting. There's definitely a skill gap in between me and Studio Ghibli background painters, evidently, but I think I did a pretty good job. I'm really happy with this. I think I got the colors about right. It's just a matter of getting better with the brush and mixing paints. So that's really hard. Mixing paints is still a really hard thing for me. Here is a little ink drawing. I'm sure you saw it in the previous video of you know, it's a nice little comfy Mac. Here are some building sketches. I just, you know, took something and started doodling. So this is like what I usually doodle in my, you know, usual sketchbooks, with the high-tech C black ballpoint pen. So I took this little design shape and replicated it and sort of duplicated it and moved it around and see what sort of like designs I could get out of it. So much more like a normal sketchbook and totally not a gouache sketchbook. So here are some studies of Sid Mead and the Anthem concept art of book. Really good, really nice environmental designs in that book as well. And then took this shape and then used it here as well and made a mech out of it. This was done on stream, so if you were on my live stream or if you saw the VODs, you would have seen these drawings here as well. A little brush pen sketches, you know, try to draw cars. Really hard drawing cars. I have a hard time. This one as well. And then some more character sketches done on stream with the blue ballpoint pen, the blue high-tech C. It was really fun. I like just filling it up, and like, you know, when I'm on stream, I don't really care about what I draw. So I just, you know, it's nice to have a double spread, you know, page for once. And this one too was done on stream with the Pentel color brush. So like a little elf girl that I did, you know, her in different costumes. And a little mech drawing, of course, with you know, just some sort of environment built in, you know, where, you know, he's getting repaired or maintenance or something like that. Because I'm really excited for the new Ava movie, by the way. Super excited for that. Can't wait till it comes out in cinemas here. I will be the first one at the door. And just a tiny little max sketch here as well to end the sketchbook with a little study of the mechanisms and applying that to this was based off my table lamp, by the way. So I tried using those mechanisms and then build a mech out of it. So I know what you're thinking, Ken. There's a lot of empty space in this sketchbook. You've left a lot of pages empty because, yes, while it makes sense to paint on only one page with gouache, it doesn't make sense to draw on only one side of the book with ballpoint pen or inks. And I hear you. I think that I could take another month or so to fill up the rest of the sketchbook and make it really, really full, draw on both sides and make it sort of complete. But I think that after 4 years of this book, it's time to say goodbye. I just feel like I'm done with this sketchbook. I think that whatever I draw after this is merely going to be an act of drawing it for the sake of drawing it, just for the sake of filling up the empty space on the sketchbook, which isn't in and of itself bad. But I think after 4 years, I feel like it's time to part ways with this sketchbook. And it took a considerable effort to even get up to the last page. I had to use it a lot for streams and content stuff just to get this book finished. And I'm feeling that anticipation, the excitement of moving on to the next sketchbook. How I get to open a new sketchbook, and I relish that feeling. That's a feeling that I don't get very often because I go through sketchbooks really fast, too fast to the point where I'm not even aware. It's like, oh, I've reached the last page. So what time to use the next sketchbook? But for this one, it was a really slow, tedious, arduous process of just getting to the last page here. And for that reason alone, I think that it's a sign that this sketchbook has reached the end of its life. And with that, we say goodbye to an old friend who's been with me for 4 years